Okay, let us start. And let's start by describing characters, if we may. And Seth, since it was your idea, why don't you start with how do we pronounce it now? Artarius.
Yes.
I'm sure I'll murder these names as we go along, but as I always do. But keep going.
Can someone else do theirs first? Cause I need to
Descriptions?
yeah, I need to finish some things about his description about like height and some of the background stuff.
So. Okay, Devik, do you mind jumping in with
Not
Earth?
at all. I'll just read off what I had written before.
Sure.
Earth stands 6'6" tall and is a sturdy 230 pounds. I'll actually correct that here. Hit it. Okay, let's try that again. Earth stands 6'6" tall and is a sturdy 230 pounds. His gray-green skin is accented oddly by his violet eyes. Coarse black hair is cut short, and he has stubble, forming a nearly permanent 5 o'clock shadow. His thick black body hair is clearly visible at all times through shirt collar and cuffs and when he's wearing sleeves at all. Earth is dressed in a casual traveler's clothes that look well-worn and comfortable. There are gravy stains down the front of his jerkin. A large, well-maintained great axe hangs from his back on a leather harness. His smile is friendly and slightly goofy. It's clear upon encountering that he's not the smartest cookie. At all. He wears his heart on his sleeve and doesn't bother to hide his emotions. His demeanor is more than a little childlike at times. When he is enraged, his eyes are more red than violet. He speaks with terrible grammar regardless of the language. He has a fondness for bears and keeps a pair of bear claws on the leather thong around his neck, and a stuffed toy bear in his backpack.
Awesome.
Which he clutches when he's asleep.
I was muted but laughing when
and will murder anyone who takes it from him.
I was muted but laughing when you mentioned the gravy on the jerkin, the gravy stains on the jerkin too.
Oh, when you finally, I mean, Jedrin's probably used to this now, but table manners are something he never learned, and he eats messily.
Well, Jedrin helps with that, with this prestidigitation, because he's like, oh my god. And he doesn't even tell you half the time. He just, like, does it.
So is that anything else for Earth?
No, just that, cutlery is a foreign concept to him.
Okay, then let's go to Gendron, because there's a bit of a relationship between Earth and Gendron. Gendron, sorry, excuse me.
No, whatever.
Hey, I'm DM. Whatever I say goes.
Exactly. So yeah. He's young. I mean, you get a sense that he's older than he looks, and that he takes advantage of that youthful look. But he looks pretty damn young. Maybe 14. He's short, and maybe overcompensates a bit with his attitude, and red hair, like red hair, which actually gives him some hassle sometimes, because some people are superstitious or whatever, and but he's he's an attractive kid. His voice is still pretty high, so he still sounds very youthful, and maybe it hasn't changed yet, or it's cuspish of changing or whatever, and he's usually has this monstrous shadow behind him,
which is
protect him,
which is Earth.
Earth, yeah. His shadow.
Always guarding.
Yeah, and
always doing what he's told.
Exactly, and he's always looking around. He's always paying attention to what everybody else is doing. So he sometimes may look distracted or seem distracted when you're talking to him, but he's always he's looking for a mark. He's looking for a score, but with his like big guardian protector, he's always like, "Look what I found." He's so lucky. And then, hey, quick, put this in your bag. Thanks. He also has some visible burns on his arms, and you can see it looks like it from like with his leathers and stuff. If ever he's wearing, lighter clothes or no clothes under the leathers, I don't think that would happen. But like if ever there's a chance for you to kind of see some of his skin, you can tell that it goes underneath his leathers, that he looks like he's been burned. But the scars look old and they're faded, but they're visible if you're like looking for them.
Does he try to make a concentrated effort to hide that and other people not see it?
He like almost never will take off his shirts or anything. He won't go like scantily clad or whatever because he's very self-conscious about the burns.
Yeah.
And because he tries to look like this innocent young kid that you'd never really pay attention to, he feels like that might draw attention to him.
Yeah. Okay. And anything else?
He's got some freckles and he's got like probably blue-green eyes, maybe. Maybe, yeah, I haven't decided on that for sure. Just with some of that other stuff that's going to be happening with him, maybe that'll change, or maybe sometimes they won't be blue-green, but whatever. Outside of that, I think that's all I can think of for now.
Okay, and I know we touched on it before, but just touch on the relationship between Urf and
so his relationship with Urf.
Urf found him or something like that, or rescued him?
About 8 months ago.
Urf rescued him.
Yeah, so he was like in a market, and he got caught stealing, but it wasn't the first time. But of course he fought and yelled and denied culpability or whatever. But this guy literally dragged him by the throat over to like the fountain in the middle of this market square and just started drowning him in the fountain. He was like fed up with them, and people just like watched. Nobody stopped it, and then Urf like suddenly sees this little kid being like drowned by this.
Urf walks into the square, having just on his way back from some other job that he had been hired for, where he just finished, pounding someone because they're a bad person. I know that because I was told they were a bad person. And he sees this kid being drowned. It's like, what? That's not right. What are you doing? And he tries to pull the guy away. The guy shrugs him off, so Urf just pounds him one in the face, leveling him in a hit, and pulls Jedrin out of the water, and it's like, you okay?
And they kind of bonded. It was like, and Jedrin at first was like, I'm fine. I could have handled it kind of thing or whatever. And then, of course, Urf would be like, really?
Well, it was more, Urf would have kind of been a little crestfallen. I was like, oh, but you were drowning.
But he ended up, so he kept Urf around because one of the problems he's found that is he's just had a hard time being taken seriously as a kid, and, rightfully so maybe.
Everyone takes Urf seriously.
And they have sort of a manipulative relationship, but still caring. So he takes advantage of Urf not being terribly bright and uses him as...
Urf doesn't realize this is happening.
Okay.
Yeah. But it's, like I said, it's kind of loving, too, at this point. Like, he's fond of him, and he, feels like he's, an uncle kind of thing that he never had. And Urf calls him little brother, which he thinks is cute.
I'm a big dumb oaf, but I'm Jedrin's big dumb oaf.
So now they're kind of protective of each other, but Jedrin's still a little manipulative. Or maybe a lot manipulative. But he doesn't see it as being harmful. That could be his alignment, but whatever.
And the other thing is Jedrin's never done something that actually has ever harmed Urf or got him into such serious trouble that they were, really in trouble.
Yeah, and because he's not, Jedrin's... I mean, he's a kid or whatever, but he'd never try to get someone killed or whatever. At least not yet. Wait till he learns to heal.
I have had to beat a few people up, but that's beside the point. I was doing that for a while.
I found this beautiful dagger, and this person's saying that I stole it, and I didn't. I just found it. Now he's trying to take it from me.
And any idea the town, this market square that
Oh, Waterdeep.
it was Waterdeep?
Waterdeep, yeah.
Okay.
Because so here's the other thing. I do have a bit of an accent, although I'm going to try to figure out an accent. I'll just say you can kind of tell that English maybe not have been his first language, and
Well, whatever the
common. Sorry,
the
is
common,
like
yeah.
because but it is like it's probably his native language still. But he grew up with undercommon just as often as common, so he can flip between them. And sometimes he'll like swear in undercommon or whatever, which is just like bastardized Dro in a way, right? But whatever.
Okay. Anything else about Urfin? Help me out again. Gendron?
Gendron. But and the other thing is,
if I say the name Dogar, that's him, little
yeah,
brother.
he calls me Dogar.
Yeah.
And the other thing is, he and Urf will probably have like words that they'll say to each other in either like orc or an undercommon that maybe other people won't get, but they'll just get between them just because they picked up little bits. But neither of them are fluent or anything. But they've picked up little bits of these things and maybe can use them almost in code.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Gendron's taught Urf a bit of like a few words in undercommon. He's done the same thing for her in Orcish. Sorry,
Yep.
Yeah.
It's the photo. Anyway.
Yeah, I'm actually I've had the same issue with. I've had the same issue with Seth's.
Sorry.
I've had the same issue with Seth's player character token as well, because I keep in my mind referring to Artorias as her, just because
based on an image.
The token looks very more herish than himish. But
I was actually looking at that token when I was speaking.
If you click on the character sheet, it's a guy.
Yeah.
We know.
It's a very pretty guy. You know?
Yeah. He looks very dandy.
It's going to be pretty.
Yeah.
Almost looks a little like Japanese anime.
You think so? I don't really see it.
A little bit.
To me, he looks like what an elf or a half elf would look like, but that's just me.
The picture I have on my character sheet, it looks kind of like he's got he's an elf or half elf, but I don't actually have those ears.
I noticed that your picture, like he has the like a tattoo of a tree on his face. I never noticed it before, but it's like a kind of like the outlines of a tree.
On the drawn one.
Yeah, on your character sheet.
Yeah, but he doesn't really have that. But it was just a fun picture.
Right, if you want to see anime, you want to look at Lelexu's picture. That is like some furry stuff right there.
Yeah. Okay, what about and again, I'm going to murder this until I hear it 100 times. Artorias? Artorias. Okay, what about Artorias?
See, I was just going to say, I took this name from one of my favourite characters, who's actually completely different, like personality-wise, from my character, but I really like the name, so that's why I picked it.
Sure. You're allowed that.
So, I'm trying to think, because I don't want to... Like, me and Vorpal spoke briefly about how we're connected, but it's not... we never really confirmed it, or padded it out, or really, like, had much of a conversation about it.
Well, talk about your character, then hit the high points about your relationship with Lilaxu, and, hey, we can always make tweaks and changes here and there. So yeah, just go ahead, hit the high points, talk about your character, and then hit the high points of your relationship with Lilaxu, and if it's fluid and it changes, then it's fluid and it changes.
Okay. So essentially, my character Artorias, let me just pull up his thing here. So he's about 27 years of age. As you can see in his picture, like I kind of use this as kind of like a template for him, because he's from the north, and I think it really reflects the way he looks, where his skin is very pale, almost like it almost not just white, but it reflects a complexion of someone who lives in that kind of region where it's just snow all the time.
Yeah.
Like a redhead.
No.
Well, the interestingly, sorry about hair. His hair also is almost like a really like it's almost grayish without being gray too, which says
So
north to me as well.
It's like a very pale brown.
Yeah.
It's very strange. And same thing with his eyes as well. Like, and the whole like it's kind of the reason why I really like this picture, because it just like his eyes are very like white, kind of grey. It's just like his whole complexion and look. It strikes someone who's spent a lot of time in a kind of snowy region. And so he was born kind of in the like I would say either Luskan or Neverwinter, and he just kind of at some point he moved north, and he kind of lived in the Icewind Dale area, and he kind of there's a lot of small towns up north, like Icewind Dale, a lot of like farming villages and just that kind of thing, and in his youth, I'd say his early 20s, he kind of joined, be it like Luskan or Neverwinter, he kind of he joined as kind of like a soldier, but he wasn't a soldier. He was a cleric who, someone who he had martial ability, but he also had the favor of his god as well. And so he set out and he went with armies, and he was kind of, essentially like a medic, but as a cleric, he's got his martial prowess as well. And he went around, various like campaigns and military, conflicts and battle to battle, probably, and I hate to say this, but they were probably battling orcs, as is a big problem in the north.
Hey, don't worry about it. I'm a half orc, not an orc.
Yeah, I know. And at some point, he would have ended up meeting. I think me and Vorpal, we discussed this, that they met quite young.
Yeah.
His characters were essentially. So what I'm assuming is probably the case is that Artorias probably with. I mean, he was given like given into priesthood at quite a young age, so he doesn't really remember his parents too well. He knows they're alive and that somewhere, but when someone starts, they show like kind of abilities, it's just kind of like, hey, he needs the right training, he needs to do this and this, and it's kind of, he was just kind of like pushed along into becoming a cleric and joining the priesthood and all that kind of stuff. Eventually down the line, when he started branching out from that, I started becoming a bit more martial. He ended up meeting Vorpal's character. You can kind of imagine it where it's Vorpal's character. He's a very because he's a rogue. He's very kind of. I mean, I think we kind of established he's. I don't want to say a scoundrel, but he's kind of. I would say more of your Han Solo type. Kind of like the crook with a heart of gold, almost, where he's picking pockets and trying to secure deals and all this kind of like shady stuff. And for the longest time, Artorias was always trying to keep an eye out for him. Like, he's like, look, this guy is an idiot and I need to protect him, because he's gonna make friends with the wrong kind of people, especially when you're in this Luskan. There's a lot of shady types.
Yeah,
it's I don't want him to fall down the wrong hole, and so I'm gonna keep an eye out for him.
I've heard about a couple of half orcs from Luskan that a little on the iffy side there, or at least one.
Yeah, I was gonna say Earth's not from there. He doesn't know where he's from. Is the problem.
Yeah. No, I was referring to Krev.
Oh yeah, no, he was from Luskan.
So eventually, Artorias and Lelaxu, they kind of, I think he might have dragged him in with him into kind of like, these kind of like military conflicts to kind of keep him out of trouble. We're like, look, I need to keep you on the straight and narrow. Let's do something meaningful. Let's fight for the realm or whatever. Trying like something that seems a bit more noble than it is. And they kind of went around adventuring and fighting all that kind of stuff for several years, and eventually they parted ways. And Artorias, he travelled north, like I said, up to Icewind Dale, and that's when he started doing like clerical work. He had enough of the fighting and the wars, and he was like, look, I want to do something a bit more meaningful. His goddess is obviously, say it properly, it's like Ariel. Yeah. Being the goddess of winter, he thought, this is a perfect place for me to kind of, and because a lot of these people believe, like, worship her, and they pray for like good favor, good weather, and that.
Worship, placate.
yeah, and that the winter won't, fuck them over. They pray, like they pray for her to basically close their eyes to them, and so they don't have a hard time. So he was going around from town to town, like, doing clerical work. He's also trained in herbalism, so he's making potions, all that kind of stuff. And eventually he met a woman, and he settled down and got married. And he spent like several years out there. But unfortunately, during one of the winters, like his wife she actually passed away. So you see, like on his finger, he always wears a wedding band. His ring. And he doesn't really talk about it too much, but like Liaxu, like he doesn't keep. Like, the reason why I'm telling you this, I'm not keeping secrets, because I know Liaxu is like, assuming that Volv plays him the way I expect him to play him, that he would probably tell people anyway. Like it's not like a guarded secret. It's just a thing that happened. And after his partner passed away, he decided to travel south, and he's like, look, I've got clerical abilities. I fought in wars. I'm just gonna do something. Follow the will of my god, or that kind of stuff. Maybe and try. And he just he decided to start traveling south and become an adventurer, basically.
Okay. And so and correct me if I'm wrong. So born somewhere in the north, like Luskin, Neverwinter, or somewhere in that area, then ended up going to Icewind Dale at a relatively young age.
So he kind of moved to Icewind Dale at a young age, and that's when he kind of got pushed into
priesthood,
kind of becoming a priest. Yeah, and I think maybe it's because his parents as well. They thought maybe pushing him as a priesthood would bring them good favor, and make things easier on them. It's like, look, if he becomes a priest, then maybe the goddess of winter, maybe she will be so dangerous to us. Maybe she might look on us a bit more favorably in that we've given her someone who worships her and does her bidding, essentially.
Yeah, it was their tribute to the god.
Yeah, essentially. Yeah. And then at some point later, he travels down to Luskin or Neverwinter, back down that kind of way, and starts fighting in these wars. And he's like, look, I'm a cleric, I can help, I can heal, let me do something that's valuable. And he starts doing that kind of stuff, and he journeys and all that with Liaxu, and then eventually after a few years of that, he travels back north to Icewind Dale, goes around the towns, using his abilities once more, and then meets a woman, settles down. She eventually, unfortunately, passes away, and then that's when he's like, look, there's nothing left for me up here, I'm just going to go back and find something else to do.
So he's bounced back and forth between Luskin, Neverwinter, up to Icewind Dale, back to Luskin, Neverwinter for his kind of career, his work, and then back up to Icewind Dale, gets married, and then wife passes away, and then that's kind of the tipping point that pushes him to say, okay, I'm time for me to figure out the rest of my life.
Essentially,
May I interject something?
Yeah.
And I don't want you to change the story. In fact, I intend to suggest that we house rule this, or house rewrite this.
Yeah.
But I was just reading the RL entry in the Sword Coast Adventures Guide, last sentence of the second paragraph. They practice celibacy and remain aloof from others while not serving in their official capacity. You'd never get married.
Yeah, or you could.
What I was saying, don't change the story. The story's better than this.
Yeah.
We'll just delete that.
We ignore that sentence.
Exactly. Well, I found it funny.
Well,
I had to bring it up.
Yeah. No, that's good.
But no, keep the story exactly as it is. The wedding band, everything.
Yeah, because obviously WotC screwed up.
Exactly.
Yeah. We should
I say make the bitch chaste.
No.
And then we'll trade like bare chest and bare boobies in front of them.
Yeah, I actually didn't read that part. Yes.
Yeah, sorry.
No,
delete it.
Leave it the way it is.
You have, because it's
more
interesting.
I think that actually works into it quite well. Is maybe even though they practice celibacy, it could have been the point where he was like, look, even though we do this, I really like this woman, and maybe I love her enough that I don't agree with the things my god practices. And it could also maybe be the reason why he, his wife passing away, it's kind of like a punishment. Maybe he sees it as that, like maybe it's his god trying to punish him for doing those kind of things.
Yeah, I was going to say, if you can work it into your background and you're comfortable with it, great. If not, then we delete that sentence and we this is our version of Faerun. because
It is anyways.
yeah, exactly. Because I have this thing about like whatever if you're comfortable in your character and your background, then we change the rules to a certain degree to fit that because there's just something that you have a inertia going that's going to allow that background and character to keep rolling, and as opposed to all of us sitting here, and I know Death, this is not what you're doing. All of us sitting here and going, nope, second paragraph, third sentence, it says that you can't marry, so change your character type of thing. So if you can work it in, great. Just like you mentioned, if not, then that's not our god in Faerun. That's not a part of that god.
No, I'm totally comfortable with the idea that my character always has advantage on all his stealing rolls. That's totally part of the story.
Perfect. You're a little muted. You're a little muted, muffled.
Playing on me, sorry.
No, I'm glad Defik pointed out, and I like the idea that he might have defied his god, not purposefully, but he's like, look, I love this woman, so I'm gonna, even though the religion and the faith doesn't practice this, maybe I can get away with it, sort of thing. And maybe it's not a big deal.
Yeah.
So when down the line it happens that she passes, and I have more about that I don't want to reveal, but it's maybe it comes to a point where he's like, look, it's like he sees it as him being punished for kind of defying her.
Yeah.
If she froze to death in any way.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it might be a little bit close, but I was going to say as well, it probably also explains, because I didn't really mention too much about his personality, but personality-wise, he's quite I think he's become a bit more jaded, and just by the god that he represents, it's like, look, the world is harsh, and things are harsh, and that's just something we have to deal with, and so he's probably not as caring as some clerics might be. I mean, he's not gonna. I'll say this: he's not the kind of guy who would turn a blind eye to someone in trouble. But it also depends on the situation. If a farmer's like, "Hey, my crops there's no life in these crops, or whatever. Like, I need you to pray for me." He's going, "Look, that's just nature. That's just the way it is." And he's that kind of guy. It's like, look, the world is the way it is. Like, storms happen. Winters happen. People die. Life has its course, and that's the thing is like he's kind of very strong on. It's that you can't change the way life is, and it's
an absolute fatalist.
Yeah. Pretty much.
Yeah. And again, this is not to make it canon, just to kind of get things straight in my mind. And if it changes, it changes. Luskan Neverwinter, then Icewind Dale, then back to Luskan Neverwinter, then Icewind Dale, and then wife dies, and then move on. At what point in that do you run into Lilaxu? Is it like your first time in Luskan Neverwinter, or is it Icewind Dale? Is it back in Luskan Neverwinter? Or if you're not sure, then we'll figure it out later.
Yeah, I think we can figure it out later.
Yeah,
I think it might be his first time kind of traveling through Luskan to Icewind Dale, or maybe back to Luskan.
Okay.
I would say it would be, at least from what me and Paul said, when they met, they were very young. So that's why they kind of see each other almost as brothers, where they feel like they have to look out for each other, because from a young age, especially in this kind of part of the world, it's, as I'm sure Defik would tell you, like Luskan in this kind of area, especially Icewind Dale being very harsh, it's just a very kind of morbid place, I think.
Sure.
And it's very just, you have to rely on other people to survive, and I think it's kind of that, especially two young guys that like trying to make themselves in the world, and they realise that it's like, look, if we work together, if we help each other, then we can get a lot further than not.
It's a weird combination of required self-reliance, but also having to trust your friends.
Yeah.
Because you can't get by on your own, but you have to be able to be strong enough to get by at all.
Exactly. And going back to, like you mentioned, like some town in Icewind Dale, again, Wizards keeps Faerun relatively, like you have got your major cities, Waterdeep and stuff like that, and then some adventures, they kind of zoom in at a certain level and they kind of fill it in a little bit more, like Lost Mine, or well, actually most of them, Prince of Apocalypse, they'll pick an area and they'll kind of fill it in, but they keep things relatively vague as well, so that we as people, like they say, hey, here's the major cities in this area, but obviously there's a lot of towns, villages, farms, so we get to decide what those are, and play with it so that everything isn't necessarily set in stone. So um, so it doesn't have to be a place that we absolutely know, which makes the flexibility of the story a lot better than saying, well, it's got to be Neverwinter or Waterdeep or Silvery Moon. It can't be anything else other than those three.